Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So this video is going to be the first installment of a brand new series on the channel, which is making a hypothetical $100,000 portfolio that clones a couple of my favourite super investors. And the purpose of this series is mainly for fun, but also to see if cloning the best investors is actually a decent strategy over the long term, and if it outperforms a benchmark index. I know it's already been proven with Buffett, but it'll be interesting to see if it works with other super investors as well. Now, this series was inspired by one of my favourite investing channels on YouTube, Investing with Tom. And I can see from my YouTube analytics that you guys are big fans of Tom's videos too. And in the spirit of keeping it interesting, I won't be using any of the super investors that Tom used in his series. So unfortunately, no Buffett, no Munger, no Lee Lu, and so on. But I still managed to put together what I think is a pretty good list of super investors to start off with. And over time, I expect to add more super investors to the list, depending on how many potential investments there are to clone. I'm also open to suggestions from you guys as well. Now, with the list of super investors, I'll go through the list one at a time, as some of these investors aren't as well known as others. But when it comes to their approaches to buying businesses, they all share pretty much the same investing philosophy, which is to buy high quality businesses at good prices. By high quality business, they simply define it as a business that earns high returns on capital employed, as well as having ample opportunities to reinvest capital at high rates of return going forward. These are the so-called compounding machines or long-term compounders, and each super investor on this list uses some variation of this framework when buying businesses. Alright, so the first super investor on my Mount Rushmore list of super investors is Chuck Akre from Akre Capital Management. Now, Chuck is a super investor I've been following for a while, and I think he's really interesting to listen to. And if you haven't heard of Chuck, I highly recommend watching his Google talk on YouTube, which I'll link down below. So Chuck's approach to buying businesses, which I've mentioned on the channel a few times, is a framework called a three-legged stool, which is basically a three-step checklist for finding quality businesses, by looking at the quality of the business, the quality of the management, and reinvestment opportunities. The second investor on the list is John Huber from Sabre Capital Management, and if you're a long-time subscriber, then you know this guy's had a huge impact on my approach to buying businesses. Many of John's key ideas are taken from Buffett and Munger, but he has a great way of breaking down and expanding on some of the more complicated aspects of analysing businesses, like the return on incremental capital and the reinvestment rate. Overall, John's investing philosophy is very simple. He thinks in the long run, the best investments come from the best businesses. Our strategy is to carefully study and selectively invest in exceptional companies that we expect will compound over the next decade. And if you want to read some of John's stuff, I'll leave a link to his website below, and I highly recommend checking out the research tab. Next, I have Rob Vinall from RV Capital, and this is a super investor I haven't had a chance to mention on the channel yet. Rob Vinall is an investor based in Switzerland, and like the others on the list, his approach is simple: buy great businesses at attractive prices. The one difference between him and the others though, is he runs a very concentrated portfolio of 10 holdings or less, and at the moment he only has around 6 holdings in the US, with a few international holdings like Prosus and AdLife. Like the others, Rob is a great investor to read and listen to, and I'll link his website down below if you're interested. Alright, the last super investor I'll be cloning in this portfolio is Terry Smith from Fundsmith Equity Fund in the UK. This is another new name on the channel, and Terry's someone I only started reading recently. I had heard of Terry before, and I tried to always keep an eye on his 13Fs because I knew he invested in great businesses. But until recently, I hadn't got around to reading his letters, and particularly his owner's manual. If you haven't heard of Terry, his owner's manual is a pretty good place to start, and he shares some great insights about how to approach buying high quality businesses. So that's my Mount Rushmore list of super investors to start off with. And like I mentioned at the start, unlike Mount Rushmore, this isn't set in stone, and I expect the list of investors to get bigger over time. Okay, before I show you guys the portfolio, I just have a couple of rules for the series going forward, and the first one is around portfolio concentration. Now, with this portfolio, I've decided to cap the number of holdings to 10 positions, but I won't have a minimum number of holdings. So I'm happy to have just 3 or 4 positions, but the maximum will be 10. And the second rule is around price. So essentially, I can only buy a stock if the price is within 20% of the midpoint that the stock traded at during the quarter a super investor bought it. So with that out of the way, let's have a look at the Shameless Cloner portfolio. And the tool I'll be using to track the portfolio is ShareSite. If you haven't used ShareSite before, I highly recommend making a free account, which you can use for free as long as you like. So make sure you check out the link down below. If you do sign up to a paid plan, just a quick heads up, I am an affiliate with ShareSite. So if you use my referral link below, you get a big discount and it directly supports the channel. Alright, moving on. I started with a hypothetical $100,000 and I was able to build up a few positions in the portfolio already, based on the recent batch of 13F filings. So I have 5 positions so far, which is more than I thought I'd have in the first installment. And if I scroll down, these are the 5 companies I have in the portfolio so far. And I'll go through them one at a time to explain who I'm cloning for each position and the reason for the allocation. Alright, the first company in the Shameless Cloner portfolio is Adobe. And if I click on Adobe, you can see nothing exciting is really happening as I just started the position. And if I click into the actual trade, you can see I bought 22 shares for an average price of around $293 a share, which is the price Adobe closed at the day I'm recording this. Now, for all of the holdings initially, just to make it easy, I'll be making each position a 10% weighting, or 10,000 in each position for 10 holdings. But I'm also open to adding to any of these positions and making it a 15 or 20% position if the super investors were to buy more. So the weighting really isn't set in stone either. And if you look at the bottom, you can see this is a clone of both Chuck Akre and Terry Smith, as they both added pretty decent chunks to their Adobe positions in the second quarter of 2022. So it was an easy choice for the portfolio. Alright, next we have Credit Acceptance, which is a company that essentially provides auto loans to people with low credit scores. And this is a clone of Rob Vinall. Now, he has owned Credit Acceptance for a few years, but if I go off some of his earlier buys in late 2018, the price is pretty close to today's price due to the market correction. And Rob's also been adding to his position recently, even though it's already 42% of his US holdings. So overall, Credit Acceptance was another easy choice for the portfolio. Next up, the third position is Floor & Decor, which is a retailer that specialises in, you guessed it, flooring. Well, hard surface flooring to be exact. So this is a clone of John Huber. And this is actually a new position in his portfolio, which he started in Q2 of 2022. If you saw my recent post about John Huber, you might remember that this is one of the businesses he mentioned as a company that can do well in a downturn by taking market share from competitors. And again, because he just started the position and the price has fallen even more since, it was a pretty easy pick. Now the fourth holding is our only international stock in the portfolio so far, and that is Prosus. I'm sure most of you guys know what the deal with Prosus is, so I won't bother explaining. But this is a clone of Rob Vinall again. Now, the reason Prosus isn't in his 13F filings is because it's not listed in the US, but according to his letters, it's a position he started back in 2020. Since then, the stock's been pretty up and down, but at the current price, courtesy of the market, I was able to start a new position at roughly €54 a share. Alright, the fifth and final position in the portfolio so far is Visa, and this one clones the most super investors at once, with 3 super investors on the list owning Visa. So this is a clone of John Huber, Chuck Akre, and Terry Smith. And once again, we had Mr. Market providing the goods and letting us start a position at around $187 a share. So that's the 5 positions so far, and I'm excited to see how this plays out over time. Although I am slightly worried it'll outperform my own portfolio, which would be pretty embarrassing. Now, I still have around $50,000 in my hypothetical cash pile still to invest. So hopefully, in the next batch of 13Fs, we have some more activity from our super investors that we can clone. And if we don't, we might have to add some more super investors to the list. Again, if you have any suggestions, let me know down below. So that's the first installment of the Shameless Cloner series, and I hope you found it interesting. I know the first installment is probably the least interesting, just because nothing's really happened. But I think over time, it'll be interesting to see how this portfolio goes, and if it outperforms the benchmark index. If you enjoyed the video, please consider hitting that like button as it really helps support the channel. And if you watched the video all the way to the end, thank you so much for watching. As always, if you have any questions, please leave a comment down below. And if you want to know more about the tool I was using in this video, ShareSite, then stay tuned for the quick spiel at the end of the video. So that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys back in the next one. Hey guys, do you track your portfolio manually in an Excel spreadsheet? If so, you can avoid so much hassle by signing up to ShareSite for free. ShareSite is the portfolio tracking tool that I use to track all my investments. And unlike most brokerages, ShareSite automatically tracks everything including capital gains, dividends, and also currency gains if you invest in foreign markets. It's also completely free to sign up to ShareSite, and you can use it for as long as you like. And if you sign up to a paid plan, then use my referral below, sharesite.com/investingiq, and you'll get 4 months for free when you sign up to an annual plan. So what are you waiting for? Go check out ShareSite.